I'm your host, Annie Bowles, and this is News du Jour. Hey, you guys, and welcome back to the News du Jour, a calmer space to consume the news. Okay, so here at the top, I wanted to remind you guys, I take off bank holidays. So what does that mean for the upcoming 4th of July holiday? Well, unfortunately, it means that you guys won't get an episode until Thursday because I will start working again on Wednesday. So I know it's an extra long weekend, but your girl needs a break from time to time, so I have to take them strategically around the holidays. I know you guys are going to be busy with festivities anyway, so it's just not prime time for news in general. But speaking of the 4th of July holiday, in case you guys missed it, we are being sponsored right now by Liquid IV. And if you've never heard of them, you don't know what it is, it's just a powder that you put into water and it basically multiplies your hydration. It helps your hydration and water go further in your body. It has 3 times the electrolytes of like a normal sports drink. So it is definitely much more impactful. So if you anticipate a hangover at some time during this weekend, or if you're just going out to the lake and want something more fun to drink to stay hydrated at the same time, Liquid IV, in my opinion, tastes delicious. I love it. And it's great to mix with a big thing of water. I use it every time that I travel. I actually had a nutritionist recommend this product to me when I was diagnosed with gastroparesis. So it has been around for a while. It is a tried and true. When I went to Mardi Gras with my girlfriends, both of them showed up with Liquid IV in their purses because we all knew we were going to be drinking heavily, and it's just smart to get out ahead of that hangover with Liquid IV. So if you're interested, there's a link in our show notes and you can get 20% off their product with code DUJOUR. That's DUJOUR. So like I said, it's kind of a slow season for news right now, and just like business and life in general, I feel like slows down in the summer, but this week is particularly slow. But I did have a few things I want to talk to you guys about, let you guys know about. Let's jump into it. So first up, Ron DeSantis wants to end birthright citizenship. So the birthright program is actually wildly popular here in the U.S., and it basically is what gives immigrant children U.S. citizenship if they are born here. This program is rarely challenged because, like I said, it's super popular, and it would also require a lot of heavy lifting legally to get it overturned, like potentially even a change to the U.S. Constitution and the agreement of other nations. Things like that would be in the mix to getting this revoked. Ron DeSantis has started now referring to the immigration issue as an invasion, quote unquote, making it clear that this will be at the top of his list of priorities if he were to be president. The reason I wanted to cover this is that he wants to basically overturn birthright, which is very, very in line with President Trump. And they are kind of outliers on this issue for the most part, but he is painting himself as Trump without the legal problems. And that theme continues with this move. And then I wanted to go over an alligator attack in Florida that was pretty crazy. So down in Florida, there was a 13-year-old boy who not only survived an alligator attack, but he actually called 911 himself. He was out swimming with his little brother in a creek near their house when an 8-foot gator came up and grabbed him by the hip and the leg, jaw clenched tightly around the boy, and tried to drag him under the water. He said he knew that there was no chance of wiggling loose from the alligator's jaws and that he would have to get the creature to let go. So he began beating the head of the alligator and eventually he released the boy. After that, he called 911 himself. The medical teams at the hospital were most worried about the wound getting infected after being exposed to the alligator's mouth and the creek water, but he's actually now back at home recovering and he can still walk, and it seems like the event will end up being minor overall, assuming it doesn't get infected. This will end up most likely being a life-changing event for both him and his brother. There was an 8-foot gator captured by Florida authorities, but there's no way to be completely sure that this was the same animal. I'm glad he's okay. What a brave kid. So for this next story, it's actually like a little series of stories. I did want to issue a content warning. They involve murder and suicide. So I wanted to update you guys on a few different legal proceedings that have been underway that we told you we would circle back on when we heard updates. So let's get into it. First up, the Club Q attack. So if you guys remember, there was a shooting at a gay nightclub in Colorado back in November 2022. It was a tragic incident where 5 people were killed and many more were injured. The rampage was ultimately stopped by a veteran who was there with his family. I wanted to circle back around to this story and let you guys know that the 23-year-old gunman in this case was charged with dozens of counts of murder, attempted murder type crimes, as well as 2 state hate crimes. He pled guilty to all of the charges, garnering multiple life sentences. Pleading guilty waives any right to an appeal. And the next case I wanted to update you guys on is the Jeffrey Epstein death case, and it was ruled a suicide. So almost 4 years ago, Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his jail cell. Everyone caught a whiff of conspiracy, and it was all too convenient that right before Epstein could potentially take the stand, go into a trial, and potentially implicate powerful people in his crimes, he happens to kill himself. Not a chance, or at least that's the public perception. But an investigation was launched into his perfectly timed death, and it has been ruled a suicide. Not that this will do much to persuade the public. That said, the investigation did say that they found negligence on the part of the jail staff. Basically, that Epstein had the means and the opportunity to kill himself at any given time. And who knows, maybe somebody else provided the motivation both for Jeffrey to do this, but also for the jail staff who allowed this to happen. The inspector general who conducted the investigation found specific jail staff members were negligent in performing their duties to keep Jeffrey Epstein from harming himself. They allowed him to keep extra bedding in his room and allowed him to be in a room alone for a couple days, creating almost the perfect scenario for Jeffrey Epstein to kill himself. And last but not least, the Idaho murder case. I did want to circle back around to this case as well, as they are now seeking the death penalty. I wanted to let you guys know that the suspect in the Idaho murders will likely face the death penalty. If you guys remember, this is the case where 4 University of Idaho students were stabbed to death in off-campus housing. The murders seemed pretty random, lacking a real motive, and extremely brutal. There were online forums where the suspect was commenting, basically planning the murders in advance, and it seems that he committed these killings just for the fun of it, or to see what it felt like, or to see if he could get away with it. This is exactly the type of case that the death penalty was designed for, a cold-blooded, premeditated murder. And actually, it's not just a murder, it's a quadruple murder. And with the suspect, Brian Kohberger, declining to submit a plea, the judge actually filled it in as not guilty for him, and the case looks like it's going to go to trial. There was DNA used in this case, and the defense appears to be trying to get it thrown out because they are seeking records as to how the DNA was handled. This case was incredibly tragic, and we will be sure to keep you guys posted as the trial unfolds because I know there are a lot of us who are invested in its outcome. And that for today is the news du jour. Today, I wanted to leave you guys with the quote, "Justice will not be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are." If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you use to listen. A rate and review or shout out on social media would mean the world to us and help us be able to keep creating the news du jour. But the best way to support all of our work is to become a patron at www.patreon.com/sugarfreemedia. You can also follow us on social media under sugarfreemedia.co on Instagram and just sugarfreemedia, all one word, on TikTok. We appreciate you listening and look forward to telling you about the news again next time on News du Jour.
Broadcasting from Oklahoma.